President Obama and the aftermath of the bin Laden raid. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. The president visited New York City today, going to Ground Zero, among other places, to honor the victims of the 9/11 attack. Anything that draws attention to the suffering Americans experience because of terrorism is a good thing. So the president's visit is a positive. Every one of us should continue to honor the victims of 9/11. On the bin Laden front, there's controversy over whether the administration should release pictures of the slain terrorist. Talking Points believes there are good arguments on both sides, but will defer to the Department of Defense. It says any exposition of a dead bin Laden might harm our troops in the field by inciting even more violence against them. It's important to be consistent. I oppose the release of the Abu Ghraib photos because of the incitement factor. The larger controversy continues to be, however, coerced interrogation. The factor now has 6 primary sources, 6, that say waterboarding and other tough methods led to vital information that eventually brought bin Laden down. A primary source is someone who actually sees what happens, an eyewitness. If you simply hear something, you are a secondary source. The primary sources on coerced interrogation are Donald Rumsfeld, former National Security Advisor to President Bush Stephen Hadley, CIA Chief Leon Panetta, former CIA Chief George Tenet, former CIA Chief Michael Hayden, and former CIA Counterterrorism Chief Jose Rodriguez. All of those men confirm that rough interrogation paid off with intel that led to bin Laden's demise. But the New York Times and other left-wing vehicles continue to bang the torture drum no matter what the evidence is, no matter what the circumstances, no torture as they define it. Well, the truth is that some on the left would never use coerced interrogation no matter how many lives are at stake. Last night, Dennis Miller said that he believes not using coerced interrogation when lives are at stake is immoral. So the two sides are fairly well defined, and you can make the call. My job here is to give you honest information so you can make up your own mind. From the very beginning, we've said that only the president should have the authority to use coerced interrogation. And if a president chooses not to use it, Mr. Obama, for example, that's on him. But enough is enough with the denial of the obvious. This nation is a safer place because the federal government acted swiftly after 9/11. And if the far left had their way, that would not have happened. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, an inside look at how the coerced interrogation worked in the bin Laden case. As you may know, only 3 captured terrorists were waterboarded, all al-Qaeda big shots, and again, the information they provided has been vital in defeating the terrorist group. Joining us now from Washington, Mark Thiessen, the former chief speechwriter for President Bush, who had access to the intelligence on this subject that the president had. Now, I want to set this up. The president asked you to write a speech on coerced interrogation. You also use the information to write a book called Courting Disaster. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct,
okay,
yes.
So you saw what Mr. Bush saw. What is the headline?
Well, the headline is CIA interrogations work. I mean, the fact is, in the period after 9/11, we knew absolutely nothing about the enemy who attacked us. We did not know that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was the mastermind of 9/11. We didn't know who his key operatives were. We didn't know what they had planned. And then we started capturing these terrorists. We captured Abu Zubaydah, who was a key al-Qaeda facilitator. And he gave us information that led us to Ramzi bin al-Shibh, who was one of KSM's key operatives. And they together led us to KSM. And KSM was resistant when he came into when he was captured by the CIA. When they asked him about new plots, he said, "Soon you will know." And he said, "I'll tell you everything when I get to New York and see my lawyer." And he didn't see a lawyer. He was put under enhanced interrogation techniques. And once he went through those, he made a decision to cooperate. And when he was done, he was running a graduate level class on al-Qaeda operations for the CIA.
And you believe that he was broken because of waterboarding? He was waterboarded many times.
Absolutely.
Okay, now
there's no question.
Let's zero in on the courier who is the key to finding bin Laden. I understand that that KSM and another guy who is subjected to enhanced interrogation mentioned
Abu Faraj al-Libi.
Okay, mention the courier. Pick it up.
Well, I mean, we had very little information about al-Qaeda's courier networks. What happened was first Abu Zubaydah and Ramzi bin al-Shibh, who were the first guys brought into the program, gave us some general information about couriers, and some code names for those folks. When KSM was interrogated after he underwent waterboarding, not during it, afterwards, when he was being questioned, he acknowledged that they had given us the name of this fellow al-Kuwaiti, which was a nom de guerre, and KSM admitted that he knew him. Then in 2004, we captured a fellow named Hassan Ghul, who was a senior al-Qaeda operative. He was captured in Iraq, and he told us that that this courier al-Kuwaiti was a key lieutenant of KSM's successor, Abu Faraj al-Libi.
Now, did he do that under duress? Did he do that under duress, or did he just tell us?
Well, this is the thing that people don't understand. You're hearing a lot of the left who's the deniers of this program are trying to say, well, did they tell us this under waterboarding or under standard interrogation later? And that misunderstands how interrogation works. Enhanced interrogation was never used to get intelligence. It was used to get cooperation. So you took a detainee like KSM who was in a state of total resistance, and you used the enhanced interrogation techniques to bring him to a state of cooperation. And when he's under enhanced interrogation techniques, they are asking him questions they already know the answers to, in order to gauge whether he has stopped lying and made the decision to cooperate. And then once he starts cooperating, the technique stopped. In most cases with enhanced interrogation, the detainees went under them for a couple of days. In KSM's case, he was a really tough guy. He went for about a month. But once that month ended, the enhanced interrogations stopped, and they had a conversation with him like you and I are speaking today.
All right, so you're convinced then that information provided by KSM and then the other guy, Gull, who was captured a couple of years later, yes, pinpointed for the CIA this courier, and then they started to tail him, and that led to bin Laden's demise. Is that correct?
Well, actually, yes. Well, Hassan Ghul told us that he was a key operative of Abu Faraj al-Libi, who was KSM's successor after he was captured. So they capture Abu Faraj in 2005, and he's brought into the CIA interrogation program. He's not waterboarded, but he undergoes enhanced interrogation and was resistant, brought into a state of cooperation. And then he starts giving them information about the courier networks, and he's identifying individuals and giving them information about how the couriers operate, where the drops are, and so on and so forth. And then they ask him about al-Kuwaiti, and he says, I don't know him. And, you know, people say that's proof that he lied. But we knew that he knew him because Hassan Ghul had told us that he was his key deputy. So that was the red flag that told the CIA, this is the guy he's protecting. This is the guy we have to go after. So if it had not been for that process, starting with Abu Zubaydah in 2002, identifying the names, KSM confirming the name, Hassan Ghul telling us he was Faraj's deputy, and then Faraj denying that he even knew the guy, then the CIA would have never known this is the guy to zero in on, and they went after him, found him, and it took years to do it, found him, and eventually followed him to bin Laden's lair.
Very fascinating. What do you make of John McCain coming out and saying that, you know, all this enhanced stuff doesn't work, didn't do anything for us?
Well, he, like Barack Obama, has a vested interest in saying it doesn't work because he was an opponent of it. I mean, the big problem we face now, Bill, is that we don't have this tool anymore. Barack Obama, on his second day in office, eliminated this tool from our counterterrorism arsenal. So the tool that got us the intelligence that led us to Osama bin Laden is no longer in use. We have not captured and detained and interrogated a single high-value detainee since Barack Obama was president.
Right, and that brings me to my last question, that there is a big shot, an al-Qaeda big shot in custody in Pakistan, Umar Patek. Who is he?
Yes. He is a very, very senior guy. This is after when KSM was captured, he gave us information that rounded up a network of Southeast Asian terrorists that he had pulled together in order to plan the follow-on attacks after 9/11. And the only guy who got away was Umar Patek, and he's been hiding out in the Philippines for about 10 years, disappeared from the face of the earth. All of a sudden, the news reports started indicating that he was in Yemen. Then there were news reports, the Associated Press reported that he was at a meeting of jihadists in Mecca.
So we got
and
him.
He
I got to cut
up,
to the chase here. We got him,
sure,
but we don't have him. Pakistan has him. How come we haven't talked to him?
Because one, the black sites have been closed by Barack Obama, and the enhanced interrogation techniques are gone, so we have no interrogation plan. Leon Panetta said if we ever captured UBL, bring him to Guantanamo. We should bring Umar Patek to Guantanamo Bay.
But we can't because Pakistan won't hand him over.
Well, that's the problem, you know.
What does Miss Laura think about releasing the photos of a den bin Laden? Miss Ingraham joins us now from Washington. So, you know, I'm going to cede, as I said in the Talking Points memo, to the Department of Defense on this, and you say?
I'm not ceding to the Department of Defense on this. I'm not saying that just because, you know, you and I disagree. Bill, look, I think we've made a lot of hay out of this photo, and it was really unnecessary. I think if they released one photo early on, I think that would have been it. That would have been, you know, the end of it. But I don't know, it's just this drama that goes on for 3 days. Should we not? Panetta thinks yes, Hillary says no, and do we really all need to see all that play out? I don't think so. But,
right, but that's how our democracy works. It's messy and this and that. But let me ask you this: I know the arguments for releasing the photo, and there's some very good arguments, very good.
Yeah.
But if I'm the President of the United States and my defense secretary comes in and says, please don't do that, got more than 100,000 troops in the theater in Muslim countries, it's just not going to help. I got to go with him. I got to go with that.
Yeah, maybe that's right. But here, the thing I think that rubs people maybe a little bit the wrong way about this is that it seems like the sensitivity is always trained on one group here. And I think the sensitivities of Muslims around the world, they're going to be offended, or they're going to think it wasn't right, or he had a gun, he didn't have a gun, and look at he had his head blown off, or a big hole in his head. I mean, I think the more important really is, the closure for the American people. And in the end, does it really matter all that much? No, probably not. But I think, again, if we're going to compile a list of what inflames the Muslim world, then that's going to be a pretty long list, and it's probably going to go from Hollywood to the kind of billboards we have to to the way we conduct ourselves in our daily lives, to our very existence.
Yeah,
okay?
Listen, I agree with you. I don't think we should be pandering or catering to the sensibilities of terrorists or potential terrorists. I agree 100%. But again, if you're going to err on this, you err on the side of protecting the troops. Now, the president comes to New York City today. He goes down to Ground Zero. Some commentators have criticized him for doing that. I say, what's the beef? Anything that draws attention to the suffering of Americans after 9/11 is worthy. Anything that gets people focused back on the evil that happened that day and the people who paid the ultimate price is worthy. And you say?
Well, I think it's fine that he went, and I think it's always good when you can honor the memory of those who obviously sacrificed ultimately at Ground Zero. I have no problem with that. I think when you look at some of the deeper issues involved beyond the symbolism of being there, is the fact that we're still investigating and prosecuting. It looks like CIA interrogators,
That's
including
insane.
Perhaps the people.
Who, let me explain that so people know the reference you're making. There's still an active investigation by a special prosecutor into the CIA agents who did the coerced interrogation. Yeah. That is insane. So they'll throw out the Black Panthers, at the polling place.
Holder.
But there's still, it's on Holder.
Holder.
But he may be back channeling it. I haven't heard a word about it. They may just put it in the back drawer.
Bill, Deborah Burlingame today, obviously a 9/11 family member on United 93, and she actually was had a chance to meet with the president briefly and had a brief encounter and brought up the issue of the interrogations, and she claims that the president said no, I'm not going to call Holder off on this, and he turned his back on her and walked to the next person, and she and a lot of other family members are livid about this.
Well, let me make a prediction. If they do that, that's going to be the end of Barack Obama's re-election chances.
Why did they ever do it, though, Bill? That's the point. Why did they ever do this?
The left is crazed about the issue. You watched this program the last 3 nights.
Yeah.
How much evidence do we have to present? All right? But they being the far left, they say, we don't care. We don't care.
No, we don't want to know.
We don't care.
We don't want to know if enhanced interrogation actually led ultimately to the death of bin Laden.
It's not that they don't want to know. They deny it. No matter how much evidence you put forth, they say, oh, it didn't happen.
Well, and even if their own people say that it actually did.
Doesn't matter.
But the point is, when we talked about Ground Zero, again, that's a nice thing to do, and it's symbolic, okay? He said no victory laps, but he goes to Ground Zero. I mean, I could see people are upset about that a little bit, but in the end, it's about what are we doing now? Our CIA is now not interrogating anyone, Bill. No interrogations. So
I don't know. I don't know if it's
now?
a flat-out no interrogations, but certainly this guy that we talked with Mark Thiessen about, who was captured in Pakistan, this is a major guy. We should have him, but we don't have him, and that's disturbing. I'll give you the last word.
Exactly. And Bill, look, again, the question here is, what are we doing today and going forward? Whether they're retaliatory attacks or just the same threats that we had before, we should be doing everything to prevent our country from getting attacked again. Shutting down the border, making sure we can do these tough interrogations, keeping Gitmo going, putting prisoners in Gitmo if that's the best way to do it. Ideology has to be out of it. Whether you like Obama or don't like President Obama is irrelevant. America has to stay safe. That's what we should support him in doing. doing. And he gets applause when he does a good thing and a right thing like Sunday. To keep doing stuff like you did on Sunday, bring us good news, and we're all going to applaud you.
All right. Well